Excelsior! So I'm going to read Supreme number 44. So this was published in January of 1997. So Alan Moore, Supreme, The New Adventures. Winner 2, Over Streets Fan Awards. 1996, Best Writer, Alan Moore. Best Revamp, Supreme. Splat and Marlowe. Drew, Maximum Press. At last, the comic you've dreamed about is here. The Supreme Story of the Year, Part 4. Proudly presented by Alan Moore, writer. Richard Horry, guest penciler. Norm Rapmond, inker. Flashback sequences by Rick Veitch and Bill Ray. Donald Skinner, colorist. Extreme color, color separations. Todd Klein, letterer. Brent Braun, assistant editor. Eric Stevenson, editor. Supreme created by Rob Liefeld.
Ethan? There you are. I've been looking for you all week to tell you the news.
Oh, hi Diana. I have this place out of town. I've been spending more time there lately. You know, just cleaning up, fixing things, this and that.
Whatever. Anyway, the big news is that Billy Friday is leaving Omni-Man. I'm going to be writing it. Isn't that great?
Yeah. That's terrific news. But when did this all happen? Like I say, I'm completely out of touch. Lately, I guess I've been in a world of my own.
Uh-huh. Well, it seems nobody minded the Omni-Dog rape sequence. But Dazzle's president, Mr. Littman, objected to Omni-Man becoming an anti-Israeli terrorist.
That figures. Well, I look forward to working with you on it. I can't start right away. I mean, I have a few loose ends to take care of first.
Oh, sure. Me too. I've got to get ahead on Warrior Woman before I can even think about Omni-Man. Still, I'm really excited about it. I'm like a huge fan of your superhero work. You just seem to have a real feel for that sort of stuff.
Well, thanks. I'm, afraid I still haven't read any Warrior Woman.
I'll get you copies. Listen, I've got to go. We'll talk next week, okay? You have a good weekend. Whatever it is you were planning on doing.
Supreme, the Age of Gold. It says Roy Roman, Waxman, Jack-O-Lantern, Glory. It says Magno the Superhumanoid, 1941 to 1946. Battle Helmet of Helios, King of the Sun. The Missile Men of the Third Reich. The Futuroscope and Allied Supermen Yearbooks, 1941 to 1949. And the Allies' New Year Party, December 31st, 1949. The Allied Supermen of America.
Blistering bilitus! Monsters appearing from our Futuroscope to disrupt our New Year's party. What can this mean?
We're the three Maya Maniacs, here to wish you a happy New Year.
And foretell the end of the Allies.
Readers, you will never forget the Allies' last case. The Invincible Supreme is first to confront the threatening threesome. Who are you creeps? And what do you want with us?
Ha ha ha! We're spirits of New Year's yet to come. Here to offer you a holiday in our worlds of the 1950s, If you dare.
If that's a challenge, then the Super Patriot accepts. That goes double for Doc Rocket and me.
Us too.
And, in a puff of noxious smoke, they're vanishing with that hideous ghoul.
The morgue minder? Oh, he's real sweet. Once you get to gnaw him.
Meanwhile, in another realm,
There. Welcome to my morgue of menace. I'll leave you to enjoy the frights. I mean sights.
Jumping jets! What is this awful, desolate place?
look, the Lincoln Memorial. We must be in some nightmare's future America.
But it couldn't have gotten like this unless we've been invaded.
You're not kidding. And I think we're about to learn by what?
Black Hand is right. There's some sort of alien monster lunging at us from that flooded crater.
Well spotted, Waxman. That big goon has picked the wrong element to attack Roy Roman, Mermaster. Although, come to think of it, maybe I could use a hand. Coming right up. My solid shadow puppet will soon peck some sense into that overgrown shrimp.
Great work, gang. Now Doc Rocket can knock that creature out with a super speed vacuum, allowing me to entomb it with my wax weapon.
Better hurry, Waxman. We got an audience coming this way. And they don't look appreciative.
Holy smokes! More aliens! And this time they're humanoid savages! It's times like this make me wish we were back fighting the Ratsies.
Oh, yeah? Well, in my book, it doesn't matter whether it's the Nazis or space monsters trying to invade America. The Super Patriot will be there to stop them.
We're right behind you, Patriot.
Good. Then let's show these bug-eyed bird brains what happens to people who trample on old glory.
I'll try to make it a fast lesson. While I teach them that there's many a slip, if I may wax poetic for a moment.
Myself, I prefer the heavy-handed approach.
Keep hitting them where it hurts, boys. They seem to be trying to prevent us reaching something. My guess is it's the space rocket that brought them here.
But how in the name of Neptune would primitive beings like this build a rocket?
You're right, Mermaster. I can see what they're trying to protect. It's not a rocket. It's worse. It's their home. Good Lord!
A fallout shelter? Then these pitiful creatures must be...
The remains of the human race, Doc. Savage man-monsters changed by the effects of the atomic bomb.
Perhaps that water creature was their cattle?
Ha 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 ha! What happened here? Looks like a bomb hit it. Still, let's not fall out over it.
Fiend! You can't expect us to believe that this is America in the 1950s.
Of course not. But this is what America will be afraid of in the 50s. Red attack, nuclear doom, radiation. You inspired people through a war. But can you give them hope against terrors like this?
He's right. What use are wax guns and shadow puppets against the threat of world destruction? Even I can't outrun that. You win, creep. Take us home.
Happy to oblige, fright fans.
And, in the ASA's mountain hideout, they're back, but they look so defeated.
Think you could do better? Just tag along with the old tomb tender and find out.
Continued this issue.
So it was you who used our old signal device. What's the matter? Curled up with a good book you wanted to share?
Huh? Who?
Oh, come on. Who else?
Glory! It's so good to see you again. After all these years.
Years? Didn't we run into each other a few times? Just months back? Or was that a dream I had? I don't know if it's just me getting old, but some past events seem sort of blurred.
For me, too. I assume it's some side effect of the recent reality revision.
I'd ask you to explain that, but I probably don't need the migraine right this moment. Why did you summon everyone here, Supreme?
Because I've been back from space a while, and haven't looked anyone up. I had some amnesia problems, but they're mostly over now. Here, why don't you sit down?
Why, thank you. You've certainly got better manners than I remember. Do you think anyone else will show? Up?
Hi.
By the holy horn of plenty! That's surely not the alley cat.
It certainly is, along with her husband, unless I'm mistaken. Dr. Rocket, I presume?
At your service. Although that's plain Dr. Rex Richards these days. Better climb down off me, Serena honey, before you start something you can't finish.
Ha! Just listen to Mr. 3 nanoseconds and it's all over. Glory! Good to see you, sweetheart. Say, are those your old boobs? Absolutely. It seems like you both answered Supreme's signal like me.
Damn thing was beeping in the hall closet. Thought it was my pager. So, Supreme, what's the emergency?
No emergency, Doc. I just needed to fill in some gaps from my past. I was reading the yearbook from 1949 about our last case.
Oh, that. Did that really happen? Or was it some mass hallucination? It sure felt real. I remember going on that second time trip, and I remember that nothing was ever the same again.
Allied Supermen of America. Jiminy criminy, guys! That twisted tomb tender has transported us to an ordinary cemetery.
Not quite. This is the quiet town of Gainesville, 1955. I'll leave you to enjoy the experience.
Part 2. Shock stalks the suburbs.
Well, the town looks normal enough, even if it is a little, well, shadowy.
True, Alley Cat, but we wish to observe without attracting attention. A simple spell of ghostliness should put things right.
Thanks, Jack-o'-lantern. Now we can see without being seen. So far, everything looks peachy.
Storybook is right. It's a normal American town. Look, there's a young mother heading home with shopping. Let's observe her.
Seems like an enterprising gal. From the look of that shopping bag, she's brought plumbing equipment.
Shh, let's watch.
At last. Now I've got everything I need to connect this nozzle to a deadly acid bath. Dear hubby always said he'd go to pieces if I found another man. After this shower tonight, That'll be guaranteed. That witch is a murderess. I'd like to pull her hair.
I'd settle for running her into the cops. But wait! Someone's coming! It's probably her lover. Sweetheart, are you home?
Oh yes, Ed, honey. I'm just putting the finishing touches to our plan. By tonight, we'll be free. Neither my husband or our idiot son suspect anything.
Great gosh! Her lover is a corrupt police chief! Those rats! I ought to summon Sherlock Holmes or the Scarlet Pimpernel from my book to arrest him! Calm down, youngster. This is a complicated situation. The die-hard speaks truly. Let's go outside.
What are we going to do?
Perhaps we can find that woman's son or husband in time to warn them. My spook senses should lead us to them. I knew it. My spirit voices never lie. There's that woman's son now, chatting to a school friend over there. Have you got it?
Yeah. Just hold your horses.
You don't understand. I need it, right now. With all the misery between my mom and dad, is it any wonder I got a monkey on my back?
Oh no! He's buying drugs!
It feels good, doesn't it, Johnny? As the horse surges into your hungry veins. With sweet oblivion, it soothes your worries. Mom and Dad. Your home life. The fact that you won't reach 30, Johnny.
It's horrible. And there's no point alerting the law if the police chief is crooked.
There's still the boy's father. My instincts tell me he's Gainesville's mayor. Maybe he can pull his family together.
But, as Jack-o'-lantern appears in the mayor's office...
Where's the mayor? I must speak to him.
Why, he's set the meeting just outside town. But it looks like you changed into your robes already. Robes? What does that joker mean?
I know not, storybook smith, but the place he mentioned is just ahead. We can dispense with invisibility, now night has fallen.
But...
Well, Brother Meyer, I guess we're about ready to string up this uppity.
We sure enough are, Brother Imperial Salamander. We'll teach him a lesson he won't never forget. Is there no end to this evil? The mayor is a member of a race hate group. This has gone on far enough.
I'll say, let's see how these so-called white knights compare with Sir Lancelot from my magic book.
Meanwhile, I'll turn these rogues into grass and conjure a spectral lawnmower to trim them.
Soon...
There! That takes care of the last of them.
And this poor fellow can go home safely to his family. All the same, what have we really achieved?
What's up? Losing faith in the American scream? I mean dream. Guess you mugs just aren't cut out for Gainesville.
He's right. We fight super foes, not social nightmares. Let's go home. And so, our comrades are returning, even more dejected than the first batch.
Don't worry, Supreme. We've saved the most crushing world of all. Especially for you.
Continued this issue. Those were strange times. I joined the original Allies soon after graduating, from Kid Supreme to Supreme. I left my boyhood home and built my Citadel. Then there was the war. Sure, we came through it all right. We vanquished Magno and the Allied Axis, super fiends. But even so, everything was different.
Well, I was 15 pounds heavier, and your hair had turned white. Oh, and Storybook Smith had been promoted from comic relief to full membership.
It was more than that. It almost felt like the war had been our only reason for existing. Say what you like about the Nazis, but they made damn good villains. With them gone, we just sat around waiting for something to happen.
Something did happen. They called it the 1950s.
Mighty Man! So you answered my signal too? This is incredible. You haven't changed since I last saw you.
Oh, maybe just a little bit. Look who I spotted halfway up the mountain.
Staple my shoes and call me Slowpoke. Is that Waxy Doyle?
At your service. I quit the heroics ages back. Never was cut out for it. I mean, fighting crime with wax. What was I thinking? Started a furniture polish business instead. Made a friggin' fortune.
So what's everyone doing here?
Discussing old times, mostly. Like our last case.
Don't remind me. That final vision, or whatever you'd call it, was the most humiliating episode of my life.
That's right. I remember there was you and Professor Knight with me and Supreme.
The third creature, the old hag, transported us somewhere where we weren't even ourselves. Somewhere utterly mad. Faster than a craze for Davy Crockett hats. Stronger than a rhino house in July. Able to leap over gaping plot holes in a single bound. Yes, it's the man of last week. It's the marble Meshuggah. It's Supreme Melvin. Gosh, Glorioski, I feel strangely different. I hope I'm not having another plot inconsistency.
It's your age, dear. Now let me finish ironing your cape with our Supremo Steamo Clean.
Ah, yes, that's better. With a freshly ironed cape, my doubts melt away. I want to soar. I want to avenge evil. I want to right wrongs. But mostly, I want to watch the ladies' chicken fat wrestling finals on our 24-inch screen supreme. Go on, go on. Pull her toenails out. Blah.
You'll do no such thing. Now get off our sofa, Supreme, out of our sitting room, Supreme, and right wrongs. And make sure you get it right, and right the right wrongs. Right?
Moxie!
By George! Gee, Glorioski has a right to feel wronged by my wrong-writing wrong-headedness. I better scan Megalopolis for evil with my squint supreme. Great gargling galaxies! It's my old friend Professor Newt, no doubt about to rightly read some wrongdoer his rights. I shall show solidarity supreme by assisting the reptile of righteousness in his noble work. Stand back, pig of darkness, while I use my spittle supreme to expectorate that evildoer through a wall.
Supreme Melvin, I am astonished. I am awed, but mostly I am violently enraged by you hawking my employer into the hospital before he could confirm my janitor's job.
Huh? But the slimy scion of the shadows, what happened to your wrong-writing career?
It was the wrong-writing career, right? When did they last make a Professor Newt movie serial or gum cards? The breadlines are full of long underwear heroes. Get a job. Blah.
suffering social security. Can the pond-dwelling paragon be right to write off wrong writers? Are we all headed for the scrap heap supreme? I better change to radio reporter methane drain and investigate. Excuse me, girl reporter Juicy Jawachi, but are the costume wrong writers finished?
Why, absolutely, methane drain. You worthless speck of trash. This book says they're all deviants, with dirty pictures hidden in their clothing wrinkles.
Impossible! Surely none can malign the masculinity of masked manhunters. What about the bastions of beefiness, like Meaty Man?
Sorry, radio reporter Methane, secretly Supreme Melvin Drain, but Ice radio reporter Bobby, secretly Meaty Man, Bug Pluck, must disagree.
Disagree? But we're men's men! Observe our bulging muscles!
Observe our tight costumes and boys' sidekicks. I've decided to be honest about my unnatural vices and urge to dress oddly. It's goodbye, Meaty Man.
And hello, Nighty Man.
Good Lord! This is a bad dream, Supreme! I'm having a panic attack! Glorioski! Professor! Help me!
We're here, dear, but I fear we're all hopelessly caught in this lampoon.
Not a harpoon, not a spittoon, a lampoon.
Then for crying out loud, will somebody get us out of this first Lugner place?
What's up? You look sad, tired out. I better take you parody poopers home.
And so...
There, everybody's back. Let's just hope you learned your lesson.
That's right. Your golden age is finished. It's our turn now. This is the dawn of the golden age.
Not only will the 50s be too weird for you, not only will the 50s evils be beyond you, but worst of all, the 50s will laugh at you.
So long, antique surplus of America. They're gone. If they were ever really here, maybe we all had a nightmare, brought on by too much celebrating.
Maybe. Even so, perhaps I should rethink my career. Maybe narrate short horror stories.
Thou speakest wisely, storybook smith. Truly, a mystic portent has been shown to us.
Bong, 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 bong.
Hey, it's striking midnight. Happy New Year, everybody. I guess.
The end. And that, I guess, was that. Within 6 months, the team was disbanded. Everybody retired, except for the big names like Glory, Professor Knight, and myself.
Well, there were second stringers like Roman, the Fisherman, and Space Hunter. I sort of struggled along in your wake. Personally, I was glad to be out of it. The 1950s were just plain silly. Remember Detective Gorilla?
Oh, please. I got stuck minding a group of prep school girls who called themselves the Danger Damsels.
They were difficult times. I was constantly being transformed by Supremium. Professor Knight became Negative Professor Knight, and Polka Dot Professor Knight.
Speaking of the professor, I wonder where he and the others got to.
Aren't Roman, Die Hard, and the Super Patriot in teams right now? As for Professor Knight, he just dropped out of sight. I guess that sometimes people change. Yes, well, that's true of the Patriot too, since he was rebuilt.
I heard Black Hand was in the hospital, following a stroke, and Smithy lost his magic book in 58. As for Jack-o'-lantern, who knows? It was a golden era back then, in the 40s. But I guess everything changes with time. Everything tarnishes. Everything loses its glitter.
Tell us about it. We married each other.
Yeah, and speaking of family ties, we got our daughter and grandkids coming by later. We should get home. I can give Waxy a lift. Will you two be okay?
We'll be fine. It's been great seeing everyone again. You all take care.
There they go. Don't you think Alley Cat looked wonderful? I mean, she has to be 60.
I thought they were all wonderful. Do you think they'll mind if I salvage some of the trophies here for my Citadel? Just the Futuroscope. And maybe Magno?
I'm sure nobody would mind, so long as you invite us over to look at them once in a while. And next time, don't leave it so long, okay?
Okay. Later. S1, I'm going to go into the lab for a while. Can you install the trophies I brought from Allies HQ in the Souvenir Hall Supreme? Certainly, sir. Do you require assistance in the laboratory? I can instruct S2 and S3. Thank you, S1. But no. This is something I've been putting off since I rediscovered this place. And it's something I'd best do alone. I'd like you to seal off the Science Lab Supreme from the rest of the Citadel for the next 8 hours until my preliminary examinations are concluded. Of course, I shall instruct the other Suprematons to monitor closely for possible contamination. Good luck with your experiment, sir. Thank you for that, S1. I may need it. Next, Supremium! Faithful reader, send it to the Citadel in Supreme Mail. Extreme Studios 2248 N State College Boulevard, Fullerton, California 92831. CompuServe 75664.207. America Online XTRM 38882. Dear Supreme, I can't believe it. You actually topped Supreme number 1. Here's hoping issue number 3 surpasses number 42. I'll let you know if it doesn't. Tim Case, Bellevue, Washington. What do you mean you can't believe it? Does Supreme and Alan Moore. I've been reading your work for so long, since your first issue of Swamp Thing, and have remained a huge fan. I want to thank you for all the joy that you've brought me over the years with your stories. Your run on Swamp Thing was my favorite, but I also loved Watchmen, 1963, Wildcats, and of course your last Superman story. And now I totally love your Supreme. Seeing Radar flying around in it was so wonderful. It reminds me of comics I read as a kid, but which, it seems, are no longer made. Supreme is easily my favorite comic now, and the only comic that I count down the days until it comes out. Steve Cadigan, St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada. Thanks for the kind words, Steve. Alan's a big fan of the type of comics you mentioned in your letter. It seems, are no longer made, and while Supreme isn't meant to be looked at as merely a retro comic, Alan's goal is to recapture that sense of wonder that always seemed to accompany the comics of old. Dear editor, I know what I like, and I like Supreme. To be perfectly honest, I never read this comic before, but if you can pull off adding Alan Moore to the team, it must be worth something. And it is. In a world where some $2.50 comics aren't even worth 25 cents, Supreme is worth cover price, and much more, but don't change it. Alan Moore is, as usual, crafting a beautiful and entrancing story. I especially like how a new reader doesn't have to know the years of Supreme history. This is history being made, even this late in the series. I know you added a long list of new readers with the decision to do this. And the art isn't bad either. Joe Bennett is keeping the comic firmly grounded in the Extreme universe, not setting it apart from the rest of the world, but seamlessly fitting it in. Having Rick Veitch draw the flashback comic sequences is a stroke of genius. I have followed his work for years, and I am looking forward to his new Extreme project, if it is still on the schedule. To sum up, I like this comic quite a bit. Based on the strength of this comic, I've also read Newman, and like it quite a bit too. I don't care what anyone else says. You guys are putting some first-rate comics. Keep it up, Marlon Harris, Burbank, California. Glad you liked the book, Marlon. And since you mentioned, Rick Veitch's Extreme project, Cabot Bloodhunter, is still on the boards. As a matter of fact, you should be able to find it at your local comic shop in mid to late January. If you're a fan of Rick's work, you're sure to enjoy it. To all at Supreme, I feel that Supreme is the best book that your studio is currently working on. Alan Moore is awesome. Your regular art team and guest artists are great, and I hope you continue doing this. I read that you were planning to have Kurt Swan work on the book before he died. He was a great artist, and his most recent work on Power of Shazam was just as good as his past Superman work. It would have been nice to see his work on Supreme. John Gentle, South Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It certainly would have been a pleasure to have Kurt Swan contribute to Supreme, John. As I mentioned last issue, working with Kurt was something both Alan and I were looking forward to. Unfortunately, it simply wasn't meant to be. We're glad to hear that you're enjoying the book, though, especially the growing list of guest artists contributing to each issue's flashback sequences. This issue's flashback sequences were penciled by Rick Veitch and inked by Bill Ray, with an assist by the extremely able Hilary Barta. Thanks, guys. Dear Supreme staff, thank you for making the last 3 issues of Supreme an enjoyable and thoroughly entertaining run. Alan Moore should certainly be praised for his work in turning this formerly psychopathic, megalomaniac character into something that I actually look forward to reading each month. I've been a faithful reader of this title since issue number 1, but I must say, these last 3 issues have been the best yet. Mr. Moore's work here is indeed as good as it was in his previous work as Superman. He infuses the current run on Supreme with a style, grace, and even simplicity that has not been seen in comics since his work on Superman. And I must say that reading issues number 41, 42, and 43 these past 3 months has made me feel the same as when I read his story in Superman Annual number 11, For the Man Who Has Everything. I first read this back when I was 11 years old, and reading the current run on Supreme made me feel like a kid again. Keep up the good work, Alan, and I hope to see you writing this character for a long time. I do have some questions about the new version of Supreme that we all, including the Man of Majesty himself, are becoming acquainted with. 1. In issue number 42, we are introduced to, in the origin story, an adopted sister of Supreme's named Sally. Is it possible that his younger sister is still alive, now in the present? Will we see her in upcoming issues? 2. Apparently Supreme has an extremely long lifespan as a result of his exposure to supremium as a child. Isn't it possible that Radar was also affected similarly, and that the Hound Supreme is also still alive after operating for over 60 years? 3. The conundrum of the Cloud Castle reminded me a lot of the old Superman story, The Super Key to Fort Superman. I thoroughly enjoyed this tale and was wondering if we could see more stories like this in the future that remind old-time readers of the good, solid stories of days gone by. 4. I remember in old issues of Legion of Superheroes, there used to be full-page diagrams of the Legion space cruisers and headquarters. Would it be possible for you to give us similar diagrams of the Citadel Supreme in the future? 5. I loved the Looking Glass Leavenworth and would look forward to seeing those villains escape sometime in the near future so that we might be able to see, through flashback pages perhaps, their origins and or first battles with the Man of Majesty. 6. I have a feeling that Darius Dax isn't really dead, as Judy Jordan led Ethan to believe in issue number 42. I can't wait to see the resurrected Dax in future issues, and I also can't wait to see Optimus, obviously your Brainiac, rear his ugly head. Again, keep up the great work and bring us fresh and imaginative stories in the future. Good luck. And as Star Trek The Next Generation's Q would say, till next time, Mon Captain. Christian R. Jacobson, North Babylon, New York. Till next time indeed. It's great to hear from a reader who's been with us for so long and yet really enjoys the new twists currently being added to the Supreme legend. It's especially nice, considering that, prior to Alan's first issue of Supreme, it seemed many readers were anticipating a return to the Supreme from issue number 1. As for your questions, 1. Look for more info on Supreme's sister, Sally, her life, and current whereabouts in issue number 46. 2. Which is also where you'll want to look if you're hankering for more of Radar, our lovable Hound Supreme. 3. Stories told in a similar vein to the conundrum of the Cloud Castle will be coming your way in the months ahead. 4. You'll get to see more of the Citadel Supreme in the next issue, Christian. As for a fully detailed layout of the Cloud Castle, we'll talk to Alan and see what he has in mind along those lines. 5. More on the Hell of Mirrors and its inhabitants will be coming in time. It is just so hard to wait for those 30 days to pass until the next issue, isn't it? 6. Darius Dax alive? His death faked? A conspiracy of lies concealing the truth? Who would believe such a thing? Just be careful, because even if you think you have it all figured out, you'll be selecting yourself to be totally surprised. Dear Supreme Beings, just have to tell you, this book hasn't let me down yet. I've got all 3 issues, numbers 41 to 43, and I can't wait for the next one. Which brings me to my point. Is Supreme monthly or bi-monthly? It seems to have been a while since issue number 43, and there is a lengthy gap between numbers 42 and Justin Burnage, Greensboro, North Carolina. Supreme is a monthly title, Justin, but we did experience a delay during the switch from Image to Maximum Press. Send it to the Citadel. Supreme number 43 is another great issue. Alan Moore is really pulling out all the stops on this one, and this issue brings in a new facet for the series, and that is a somewhat darker tone. The first 2 issues tended to be more nostalgic and glowing. With this issue, we see some nasty things happening, and nasty things around the corner, like Judy's affair with Darius Dax. And who is this Supreme really? Can we really be sure yet? Also, my favorite part of the issue was the first section, with Moore's self-parody, especially considering his disappointment for where superheroes have gone since his brilliant Watchmen series. As always, pass along my compliments to the rest of the crew. Todd Klein is the best letterer in comics period. Ruben Rude and IHOC are doing a terrific job in maintaining a nice feel to the book, even with the desperate styles being used. And Joe Bennett and Norm Ratman prove perfect counterpoints to Rick Veitch's classical style. Aji DeBleek, Jr., North Halidon, New Jersey. Dear Alan Moore, I need to tell you that the last 2 pages of Supreme number 43, Supreme hanging up Hilda's drawing and Hilda sensing it, was one of the most beautiful moments I've seen in comics. It is so rare to see in stories solid, honest affection between 2 people, which is not based on sex or family relations or long-time friendship, and also having it not being a rare and fragile thing, but something quite natural, the way it is amongst big beings. Thank you for that. Ulake Stabelhaus, Copenhagen. Thanks for the reading, Ulake, and that goes for the rest of you too. And while we're out of room for now, be sure to join us next month, as Supreme is forced to deal with one of the greatest threats of his career. Would you believe it's Supreme's pal, Billy Friday? See you in 30.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments if you like my new editing that I've been doing for this video. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, that'd be appreciated. If you have any requests you want me to do, just let me know in the comments, and I'll add it to my Google document. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys later.